Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out People of Reddit. Story 1. Park illegally in a disabled space, learn a very expensive lesson. I have a disabled parking placard, and a few weeks ago I went to Target to buy things I didn't need and forget the things I did. Not only were all the spaces taken, someone parked their gigantic Escalade on the line between two disabled spaces, taking up both. Wholly irritated because this happens so much, I walked around the car, no placard or disabled plate. Cue the fury of someone who has to deal with this stuff all the time, and cue petty revenge. I took a pic and went inside to find a manager. When I found one, I showed her the photo and she rolled her eyes and sighed. Apparently this happens a lot at their location, because it's near an affluent town with a lot of very wealthy, very entitled people, and most often it's the owners of huge SUVs and F-150s that park like jerks. She said she'd call the cops, so I decided to go back outside and hang out by the doors to watch the show. The manager joined me and we chatted while we waited for the police. The cops arrived and walked around the car, peering through the windows and running the plate. One cop took out a little book and started writing in it. They took some photos and one came over and asked if they'd make an announcement in the store to get the driver outside. The manager radioed someone inside and asked them to announce the make and model and plate of the car over the PA system. A few minutes later, she came charging out of the store. Middle-aged, well-dressed woman, the common Karen of North America, and already yelling at the police. As soon as she got to her car, one of the cops held up his hand to shut her up and started lecturing her. I was too far away to hear, but she stopped yelling at least. That cop spoke to her for a few minutes, and then the other cop with the little book handed her but two papers. She looked absolutely apoplectic. The cops came back over and spoke to the manager, telling her they ordered her to move her car and if she didn't or caused problems in the store to call them back and they'd tow the car. They told us they gave her 2 tickets, for each spacey at $500 each. Ouch! The manager thanked the police and me and went back inside. The woman stomped around a bit before getting in her car and peeling out. The cops looked at each other, then got in their cars and followed her. Pretty sure she continued to have the day she deserved. Meanwhile, I happily treated myself to some Legos for performing a public service. Laughing face. Edit. Thank you for the awards and the response. It's so nice to hear from the disabled community caretakers. Your stories have touched me so much, and I'm glad my story made you feel a little vindicated. Smiley face. It felt really good to watch someone get actual consequences for their bad behavior, something seemingly rare these days. Maybe not as petty as this sub usually sees, but definitely revenge. Story 2. You want me to slap box with you even though I said no multiple times because I didn't want to. Don't say I didn't warn you. Context: I'm a black male 16 years old, 6'2", and weighing around 294 and I can lift/squat around 140 on a good day. The dude in question was a white guy, 17 years old and with relatively the same build as me, but he's like 5'9", and we go to the same high school. Now with that out of the way, let's get to the story. Dr. Classmate wanted me to slap him while in the boys' locker room, but I refused because I don't like hitting people when I'm angry, mainly because it makes it harder to hold back. He ended up pushing me over the edge and I slapped the dog shit out of him with more power than intended in front of our peers, and I can pinpoint exactly when his soul desperately tried to leave his body. Everyone that saw says he deserved it. I'm very timid despite my large size. After I reached middle school and got really tall for my age group, so people stopped fighting me or bullying me, or at least to my face, so I didn't have to fight for 5 years straight. Cut to March, I'm in my weightlifting class and my classmate, who we will call Ray, starts acting weird. He's trying to get me to slap box with him, and when I say no he slaps me. It catches me off guard because nobody hit me, let alone in the face, for a long time. It barely hurt, but I was shocked enough to get hit 5 more times before I realized he wanted to slap box. I'm stupid, I know, and I tell him I'm good, but he persists. I try to slap him but he dodges and hits me again and again and again, so I raise my left hand, he dodges and I pop him with my right. The weight room starts dying with laughter because he wanted to stop after I hit him. I was confused because I didn't think I hit him that hard and he told me the next day he woke up with a bloody nose. Cut to September, he keeps slapping me randomly to try to get me mad enough to slap him back and one time actually hurting me by hitting me in the neck. After 3 weeks I decide enough is enough so I start a conversation with him at lunch. Before I continue here's some more backstory. I was bored one day and was slapping my balloon I had from my birthday party months before. I found out that if I slapped it when my arm was tensed up I would do a ton of damage but if I fully relaxed my arm before slapping I would cause a small slit in the balloon making it pop. These Walmart balloons were months old so take this with a grain of salt. We can choose to have lunch inside or outside. I walked to Ray and slowly took off my book bag so I could fully relax my right arm and before it even touched the concrete I popped him on his side of his face. The lunchroom goes silent and he says OP what the F *CK, why did you slap me? I shrug, he starts walking closer to me and I jokingly start stuffing my mouth with my lunch, mini corn dogs, he says you think this is funny. I keep eating while backing up. You are most likely wondering why I'm stuffing my face, it's because I was trying not to laugh when the side of his face slowly went red and left an almost perfect handprint. Cut to last week, I dropped my spicy chicken sandwich and I was bummed out because I was looking forward to it. He starts messing with me in the locker room by moving my stuff and I tell him to knock it off but he says make me. He ends up dropping my water bottle and now I'm pissed because I think he broke it. And without thinking I lie dude I might have a spare in my bag you better hope it's not broken. He's checking my water bottle and the way he was standing made his neck exposed to the cold air of the locker room. I calming relax my hand stand behind him and think fine, I'll make him stop. Maybe it's because I was already made that week over personal stuff, or it's because he damaged my water bottle, maybe my fat ass was just upset over the chicken sandwich, but here's something I do know. I whipped the shit out of the back of his neck. The locker room had an echo and Ray held the back of his neck and his even though he looking like he was screaming I didn't hear a single sound leave his mouth for 10 seconds. And I fall to the floor laughing because I never hit someone so hard in my life. I was trying to hit him with a half my strength but in my anger I must have hit him with way more by mistake in my anger. I knew if he hit me it's gonna be a punch but then he tells me. OP you hit like a bitch that shit ain't hurt and then he turns to my friend, and my god his neck had a red rectangle and when he pretended to leave I started cracking jokes with my friend, me saying ooh my neck, my pimp hand strong ain't it? And then mid-joke I felt the coldest chill and dodged out of instinct and feel the wind of his hit. I turn around to him and he says damn I'll get you back. He later told me the next day he was near tears because it hurt so bad. The sound was more close to a leather belt than it was to a popped balloon. I kinda want to name it now. He indeed got me back later that day on the way to the bus but he called a time out and has yet to hit me. Normally when he hits me I'm okay but when I hit him, only 3 times BTW, he has to call a timeout while he recovers. This has been the longest time he hasn't hit me and I'm living happy. Sorry if this is hard to read I was typing this while tired. But the main reason I didn't tell a teacher was because they have a rule where both parties can get suspended for 8 days and that's on strike 1. I ain't trying to deal with all that. Also it wasn't directly on the neck, it was his upper back before the neck actually starts but that was too wordy so I just generalized the spot I hit him. Story 3. I quit my job by hiding the keys all around the facility. I worked for a company as the opener for 4 years. And unfortunately my cool boss had to sell the location to this doucher. So after months of the new management talking down to us, being petty, and making promises they couldn't keep I decided that it was my time to leave the company. Right before I left the new owners got a new TV provider which meant the one remote that worked on all 6 TVs turned into 6 individual remotes. So one morning I went in for my scheduled shift, at 4:30 a.m. I printed out my lengthy resignation letter that detailed how awful the new ownership was. I then went into the AV room and ripped off all the labels to the remotes. I then took all the keys, removed their labels and put them all in the same box so you couldn't tell what key was what. I also took a secret pair of keys that only a few of us knew about and hid them all around the facility. I then took a dry erase marker and wrote all over the facility's mirrors writing "I'll miss you" so that my clients/members knew I was done. I locked the front doors, ran out the back and left all before the facility opened. I blocked the new ownership's phone numbers so they couldn't contact me. I made my reason for leaving very clear in my detailed resignation. I later received a call from A*69. It was the owners saying they were gonna get the police involved for vandalism and slander. I also wrote a Facebook post informing my members that I was leaving, if I didn't delete my post. The owners were so upset they used their daughter's Instagram page to stalk me for days. They still watch my Instagram stories from the company page. It's been over a year. Story 4. Pig Poop Petty. This is my father's petty revenge. He worked in rural small towns as a DR. He'd often spend the morning in a town an hour away and drive to a second clinic. Most of his offices were rezoned homes and that offered inadequate parking. Naturally, the patients would park on the side of the road in the neighborhood and it, rightly, frustrated homeowners. However, instead of addressing it with the city, they became as rabid as a rat on a Cheeto. The discord, complaints, and personal insults kept rising and my dad became more and more frustrated. Parking solutions were the city's responsibility, so he was unable to offer any resolution to the problem. So, he decided he'd give them something to take their minds off parking. It's important to note that we lived in a windy prairie locale and that on a hot, breezy day, you could smell the pig farms 15 miles away. Dad ordered an enormous dump truck full of pig manure to fertilize the entire front and back of the office. No kidding, it was 3 deep. The neighborhood was unbelievably angry. He came home howling with laughter. It was hilarious. I don't think the parking was resolved, but it was an epic, petty moment that we still laugh about. Story 5. Out of the mouths of babes, or how my 1-year-old put my adult cousin in her place with just one word. The timing on this was just too delicious not to share. Also, I'm Australian, so it may help to read it in the accent. Main players, my youngest, Vampira, now 14 months old, and my cousin POO Covered Lou, or PCL, who is an Olympic aspirant in the heavyweight competitive child-rearing event but struggles with Poon Amos, and appears to have a chronic case of verbal diarrhea. Every time she opens her mouth, some shit comes out of it. Vampy is at the age where she is starting to walk and talk. Not as soon, or as well, as PCL's pair of prodigies of course, who are apparently attracting interest from NBA scouts and the Australian ballet at the ages of 8 and 5. They apparently recited Shakespeare in the womb. In contrast, Vampy's only learned how to say one thing, "Nai-nai." She says it when she goes to bed, and she says "nai-nai" when one of the cats curls up for a nap. Recently, we had Zoom call with my Fee and Martin's parents in the UK, and when they said, "Good night," Vampy said, "Nai-nai" and curled up on the couch to show them how she goes to sleep at bedtime. So my terrifying sister hosted a family, and close friends, party over the weekend, to celebrate Martin and I getting engaged. PCL doesn't like my sister, but she came to the party anyway, and mostly hid in the kitchen nursing a case of shit on the liver. Every now and then she would wander out and try to start some drama, and someone would shut her down, usually my terrifying sister. After a while, PCL resorted to trying to attract attention by teaching Vampy to talk. Vampy was between my dad and I on the lounge when PCL pounced. She was almost standing over us, waving a couple of toys at Vampy and saying in a loud voice, "Can you say Teddy?" Waves the teddy. "Can you say Dolly?" Waves the doll. Both Dad and I were telling her, "Not now. Go away," but PCL kept up with the Teddy, Dolly thing a couple more times. Through all this, Vampy was staring at her, making not one sound. PCL finally spluttered to a stop, after one last, "Have you had her hearing checked?" This is when Vampy delivered the filthiest look I've ever seen from a baby, before saying, "Nai-nai" loud and clear, then turning away and burying herself in my lap, and refusing to look at PCL again. You know, I almost felt sorry for PCL, being so thoroughly dissed by a 1-year-old. But that didn't stop me laughing harder when my terrifying sister told PCL, "Well, you got her to say something," as she retreated back to the kitchen. Bonus drama from PCL, because of course this wasn't PCL's only attempt to stir up drama. She also tried to stir up drama about my surname after I get remarried. It's not changing, the age gap between Martin and myself again. I'm a week and a half older than him, making me a cougar and Martin my toy boy. Diamond engagement rings, neither of us is getting an engagement ring, and not getting the message about wearing animal print. If my sister and Bil in the UK and my brother and Sil in Canada can read the message in the group chat and turn up on Zoom wearing animal print, then PCL can too. My Canadian Sil looked resplendent in leopard print. She said it was a matter of national pride. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.